Well, we are at halftime. I think third quarters are starting for Rams and Seahawks, as well as the football team and Eagles on a Tuesday night here.
Got a scoring update on those?
I haven't looked brief in the last 20 minutes or so, but I did see Matt Stafford throw an interception to another former Lion, Quadri Diggs.
No way.
Which made me smile on both sides, I guess. I don't know.
You don't say.
The irony, but yeah, we've got Tuesday night football action, which I kind of like. I don't really like the reason why we have it, but we had two Monday night football games, which I really like. They had a 5:00 game here in the Eastern time zone and an 8:15 game. So it's almost like we're getting bonus football because of a pandemic. The COVID-19 has reared its ugly head again with the Omicron variant, leading to postponements and not cancellations in the NFL yet, but we've seen some cancellations and postponements across all of sports. It's kind of strange. We're kind of back to where we were almost 2 years ago, but
yeah,
the NFL soldiers on. It's weird
because they're tough. They're tough. They're tough. They're tough.
I think this is a little bit different context in that we do have defenses against this virus now. We are vaccinated. Those who choose to be vaccinated can choose to have a booster shot.
I just got one last weekend.
Nice. Congrats. I'm getting mine on Friday.
Superpower.
I'm getting mine on Christmas Eve day. It was
Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah. So hopefully I'm not laid up from that all weekend. We'll see.
I had no side effects except for the little sore arm issue. That was it.
I had the sore arm from my Moderna shot, 2 shots back in the spring. I'm getting the Pfizer shot on Friday, so we'll see how that works out. But it's neither here nor there. So my overarching theme, I guess, for this is I love the seemingly bonus football we're getting. We're getting 5 nights of football. It just sucks how it's happening. It seems a little bit unnecessary, and I guess that we have to wait for the science to play this out. And I think the NFL is using an abundance of caution when they're approaching this by postponing games. It feels like they're applying their sensibilities and their rules from 2020 to almost 2022 now, where things are different. Like I mentioned, we have defenses, we have science, we have statistics, we understand the virus much more than we did 2 years ago. We had no idea what the fuck was happening when these original policies were put in place. So I'm wondering if they need to adjust, whether they're going to sideline, if you test positive but have no symptoms, you're immediately sidelined. But if you have the vaccine, if you have 2 negative tests, I believe you can be back on the field. I feel like we need to adjust everything with this Omicron variant, which is far more contagious, but it seems to be less dangerous, especially to those who are vaccinated. So I'm wondering if they can relax these a bit. I think they might have to wait a while till the data really proves those initial findings to be correct or not. So I don't know. What did you think about how the NFL's handling this so far?
I mean, they basically said we're moving it back to where we were. They put in the stricter rulings in place. It was crazy, like going into the weekend. So I think, people were supposed to be wearing masks on the sidelines and all that stuff again. I agree, but I think the problem is there's probably a large number of players who are not vaccinated.
I don't think it's large. I think there is definitely a percentage, but it's a much smaller percentage than the regular population, which is interesting. I don't know. I don't know what the actual numbers are, and I'm not sure that they've actually released all that, or if every team has to.
Yeah,
that's really different on every team if the percentages are way different. But
I mean, I guess the question comes in, like, what are they really putting at risk, to your point, for a player who has no symptoms, if he can play? I mean, should he just be allowed to play because of all the stuff we know now?
Right.
I mean, the Browns were down 14 players. The Bears were down like 14 players. I think the Browns may have been down more than 14.
They pushed their game back to last night, but they still didn't have
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield back or
no,
any of the key guys that had COVID. So I'm not really sure why they're postponing that at those games at that point. Like
yeah,
if you're just going to soldier through anyway, I mean, maybe they're hoping that they would be okay by
yeah.
then.
I mean, I
I
think
also think it's a little bit arbitrary because 2 weeks ago the Lions had 20 guys out. Not all of them are COVID. They had 8 by game day, but how come their game wasn't postponed in Denver? Give them a few more days to get healthy, but that didn't happen. So I don't know. It's a little bit arbitrary how it's being played out, but again, you can't really, they're reacting to unprecedented times. So I can't, as much as I'd love to bash, and the whole world loves to bash Roger Goodell, I'm not sure you
right.
can in this case. Or I guess they're doing the best they can, but
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really. I mean, nothing's been canceled, so I guess that's when you see these large number of starters out, though, you wonder like, oh, is this going to lead to cancellation versus pulling these players from these practice squads and they're suddenly making their first NFL starts in the middle of a playoff race. See, that's where it gets all sketchy for me. And today, and I don't know, is this going to affect their decisions on how they do things? Both Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are tested positive. So there's no way they're playing this weekend.
See, I'm hearing different things. Like Jared Goff from the Lions tested positive yesterday, and all he has to do is test negative twice this week, and he could come right back to practice. But I don't know if that's
twice in more than a 24-hour period.
Yes, correct. So that's why if he tested positive on Monday, so he could come back by Thursday theoretically. He said he had mild symptoms, like a mild cold, basically. So I don't know how that plays out. I don't know if that's because he's vaccinated. Maybe Tyreek Hill isn't. I don't know if he has they have different policies for that or how that works. But I'm just saying, I know for a fact Jared Goff could come back this week. So that might be the same scenario for those guys too.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say this. I'm just going to make a judgment call. I'm going to guess, looking at Travis Kelce, he's not vaccinated. But that's
looking at him, okay.
Just kidding.
Yeah,
sort of.
Well,
but
we've probably gone as deep as we need to go on this subject.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You do have they do have more than enough opportunity to test twice before Sunday's game. So.
Your point though is that at least this week it hasn't affected playoff races because they have played all the games, but they literally can't postpone games or cancel games at this point because they all need to be played to figure out the playoff.
But it has affected playoff races because of Cleveland, not because of that's my point was, do they, with all this seeding that's left to be decided and every division is gone, has now collapsed, right?
Yeah.
Especially the NFC. The NFC picture this week is completely different than it was last week. And, is that going to, if more key players are out, and are we going to hear, is it going to be like teams didn't make the playoffs because they didn't have their starters out there for a week or two even? So, I mean, it's affecting it in a different way, not in the fact that they're not playing the games, but they're playing the games with 15 backup players,
Right.
And we'll talk about this later, the Vikings played a bad but shorthanded Bears team too. So that helps their playoff chances. Raiders playoff chances are helped by what happened in Cleveland. So I don't know, but I got to say, COVID aside, something that helped my team's playoffs chances getting the number 1 seed were your Detroit Lions.
Well, yes, thank you for bringing up my Detroit Lions, as they won a game and yet they lost at the same time. Even when the Lions win, SOL is undefeated, is the way I like to put it, as yes, the Lions had a major upset victory. And as much as I Mentioned it last week on the show. The only way they could possibly win that game against the then 10-3 Arizona Cardinals, who were undefeated on the road, 7-0 before going into Ford Field. The only way the Lions had a chance to win is if SOL reared its ugly head and found a way to not only screw the Lions out of the number 1 draft pick overall, they would also help pave the way for the Los Angeles Rams to have an easier path towards the Super Bowl. If they could get closer or pull ahead of their rivals, the Arizona Cardinals. And in one game, the Lions accomplished both. They not only moved from the valuable number 1 draft slot to number 2 now, they also hurt their second first round pick that they'll be getting from the LA Rams, and that it made things just a little bit easier for them. So, of course, I should have known as soon as I said it, that's exactly what would happen, because the Lions defeated, they didn't just defeat the Cardinals. They beat the fuck out of them. It was an ass kicking from the get-go.
It was insane.
It looked like literally the opposite scenarios were playing out. The Lions look like the Cardinals and the Cardinals look like the Lions. The Cardinals look totally undisciplined. They had like 4 personal fouls, late hits, blows to the head to the quarterback, just stupid penalties. They dropped a ton of passes. They looked completely confused on offense. They couldn't take advantage of the few turnovers that I think the 1 turnover that the Lions had. The Lions actually gave up a fumble and then intercepted right away and then scored a touchdown on the next play. So it's like those scenarios are exactly what I thought Arizona would do to the Lions, yet the Lions did it to the Cardinals. So amazing. I mean, that's the only explanation I can give is SOL, and it's always undefeated one way or the other. The city of Detroit is split down the middle, I'd say. Half of Lions fans are excited about that win. The other half are pissed off that they just lost the number 1 draft pick on a meaningless game. The other part of this is they kicked ass. They did this exactly 1 week after being mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. So officially being a meaningless game. There's arguments to be made. It is great seeing your beloved team win a game and win in such impressive fashion, win unexpectedly, getting some, national attention. But why couldn't this happen early in the season when it meant something, when they could do something with this? And now all it does is fuck up the draft position. And it's essentially that the two sides of Detroit are the way I'm going to sum it up is it's prioritizing. It's what your priorities are. Do you want short-term gratification in a win, feeling good about a win, or long-term success for the franchise you've devoted your life to? The draft pick is what they need at this point, the higher draft pick. And we can debate, what the value of the number 1 pick is versus the number 2 pick. There might not be a huge difference, especially in this year's draft, as there is not a Trevor Lawrence or, a generational talent necessarily that stands above the rest. So number 1 and number 2 might be not that big of a difference. But quantifiably, empirically, 1 is better than 2. We can agree on this. And, a lot of Lions fans are upset with people that have my attitude. They say the number 1 pick gets botched so many times. How many number 1 picks actually pan out? And it's like, well, how many number 2 picks pan out? It's not like number 2 is you can't argue that number 2 is better than number 1 in my mind. And I don't see how you can argue that winning this meaningless game is going to set things right for, this is the building block that sets us off to a Super Bowl title eventually. I mean, that is so far down the road. It's so nebulous and so subjective. So that's my objective versus subjective argument that while that was a fun game, the Lions are worse off by winning that game on Sunday. And it's unreal that this is my 40 some year fandom. This is what it boils down to, that I'm pissed off when we actually win games. And that's why this franchise is so frustrating to me. So I mean, might as well break down the game a little bit because at least that was fun. Dan Campbell, I've given him shit all year, or not all year. I think I like the guy. His coaching leaves much to be desired. He's famous for going for it on fourth down when when risk versus reward is not in the proportions that it should be. That would be in his advantage. But, first drive of the game, they had a 9-minute drive, kind of setting the tone for the game. He didn't go for it on 4th and 3 at the 14-yard line.
He tried to get them to jump off sides.
Yeah, I thought that was smart. I like that idea, but it was kind of out of character. I mean, he kind of used his aggressive nature, tried to use that against Arizona. So
I do have a question about that, though. I thought he did something questionable because he took the 5-yard penalty. They didn't take the timeout. They took the 5-yard penalty, pushing the field goal kicker back 5 yards. And we know for certain this year with extra points are missed all the time.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
I think he wanted to.
I thought it was a little risky. I get holding on to the timeout, but
I'd have to confirm the yardage, but I think that moved the ball from the 14 to the 19. So that would be what, a 29 plus
29. Yeah.
36-yard field goal. That's still what an extra point is. So you're right. But I think maybe the timeout is more valuable, although it's the first half. So the points are more valuable than a timeout potentially.
I just,
first half,
I laugh because of how much we've talked about his oddness on the fourth down. And you're so deep in the zone that it almost seemed worth going for it.
Yeah.
Since your season is over.
I was surprised they didn't. Yeah, exactly. Why not go for it at that point? And the idea at that time is like you were going to have to outscore
the
strong offensive attack of the Cardinals. So it kind of confused everybody. So, or maybe he's just, maybe he is figuring out when it's worth it and when it's not, or he's still all over the place. I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was a little strange, but I'm not going to bash him for that. He did get all aggressive and went with an onside kick directly after the field goal, which was bizarre. I was not ready for that. They, of course, did not get the onside kick, but the defense got a 3-and-out. So maybe Danimal Cannibal knew something a little more than the rest of us, that his defense was going to step up in a major way in that game, because they essentially allowed only 6 plays for the majority of the first half to the Cardinals, because Lions kept going on major drives and scoring points. So they ended up having a 17-0 halftime lead, which was incredible. Not what I expected, but you're just sort of waiting for the other shoe to fall and waiting for the Lions to piss it away. And they didn't do it. They just kept methodically moving the ball. They, behind the running of household name Craig Reynolds. I'm sure you've all heard of Craig Reynolds before last week, or maybe not, considering he was on the Lions practice squad and officially got moved off the practice squad yesterday, even though he was playing on Sunday. Craig Reynolds had over 100 yards rushing. And I think that speaks to how good our offensive line is. Just consistently. I've talked about it most of the season, how it's coming through. And this is all, right now it's with our third string center. We don't have our Pro Bowl center, Frank Ragnow. And when he comes back next year, this could be one of the top offensive lines in football. And that is a really encouraging sign that I bring up like a broken record every week. But that's how you win games. That's how they dominated that game, is they controlled the line of scrimmage. So that was awesome to see. It's almost like they can plug in anybody back there as a running back, and they're gonna gain five plus yards a carry. So I love seeing that. Jared Goff played a consistent game. He was 21-26 for 216 yards, 3 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Josh Reynolds, another Reynolds to keep your eye on. They're emerging as solid wide receivers. I wouldn't say number 1 or number 2 receivers, maybe a number 2 and a 3, or a number 2 and a slot receiver, hopefully down the road. There's just a lot of positives to see in that game, other than it just fucks up everything that they were trying to accomplish by getting that number 1 draft pick this year. So the scenarios play out. Of course, the Texans and Jaguars played on Sunday, and Texans won. So they are a half game behind or ahead, one way or whichever way you want to look at it, behind the Lions with the number 3 draft pick. And of course, the Jaguars moved back to number 1 where they were last year. I don't know. I mean, the Jaguars still have the Jets on their schedule, so there's a potential that they could win a game here and put the Lions back in the driver's seat. But I don't. I mean, the confidence and the way the Lions looked, I could see them winning more games down the stretch here. I wouldn't think all of them, but I wouldn't be surprised at this point. And just to hurt their draft pick that much more, there's potential.
Eyeing the number 4 pick.
Yeah, it could go to number 4. It could get worse than that too, which I don't even want to think about at this point. But so again, I mean, that's just the plight of a Lions fan, or this old Lions fan. I've seen this so many times where we start to kick ass at the end of a lost season and it just fucks up the next season, and it just drives me crazy. I want to love it, and I just can't do it. It's vexing, I guess, is the best word for it. So
Word Hole Media.